Chloe invited me to play one of her games, the kind involving leather and blindfolds. It ended with her locking me in a suitcase to suffocate. My soul lingered, a ghost in my own home, long enough to hear her on the phone with Julian, her first love, her white whale. "Julian, you're the only one who's ever been good to me," she cooed, her voice smooth as silk. "A cheating man deserves to die." So that was it. A lie, whispered in her ear by him, was my death sentence. She believed I had cheated on her. The two of them collected my life insurance and slipped into a life of carefree luxury, while my body, unceremoniously dumped, was never found. My bones were picked clean by wild dogs. As my consciousness faded into nothing, I swore an oath in the blackness. I would have my vengeance. They would pay for what they did in blood. And then, I opened my eyes. I was back on the very day of the game. Chloe stood before me, a playful smile on her lips, dangling a leather rope and gesturing toward a large, ominous-looking suitcase. "Come on, Ethan," she purred. "Get inside. Let's play." The scene was so familiar it felt like a dream, a nightmare replaying itself. A tremor I couldn't control started in my hands and spread through my entire body. It was today, on our 7th anniversary, that the woman I had loved for nearly a decade became my murderer. In my first life, she had bound me tightly, stuffing me into the claustrophobic confines of the suitcase. She covered my eyes and plugged my ears, promising me the thrill of sensory deprivation, the dizzying pleasure of asphyxiation. It was our anniversary, and I, wanting to please her, had foolishly agreed. I'd been curled in that leather prison for an hour, my limbs screaming with pins and needles as the blood flow ceased. When I finally begged her to let me out, her voice had been a shard of ice. "Ethan, you betrayed me," she'd hissed. "This is your punishment. Let you out? Never." The chilling finality in her voice made my blood run cold. My mind exploded in a flash of panic and confusion. "Chloe, I never betrayed you," I cried, my voice trembling. "Why won't you believe me?" Weeks earlier, Julian had confided in her, telling her he'd seen me with a college student, checking into a hotel. It sparked a furious fight between us. Despite there being no proof, not a single photo or text message, she chose to believe him. Julian, she insisted, would never lie to her. "Do 7 years of us mean nothing to you?" I had pleaded then, my heart breaking. If I was cheating, where is the evidence? She had gone silent, dropping the subject. I thought the ridiculous drama was over, a fleeting moment of jealousy. I never realized the poison had taken root in her heart, festering until this very day. Now, trapped in the dark, the primal need to survive overwhelmed the sting of betrayal. I struggled against the ropes, my voice hoarse. "Listen to me, Chloe. I'm not cheating on you. Please, believe me. Let Julian come here. Let him say it to my face." A cold, dismissive laugh was her only reply. She ignored my frantic cries and desperate struggles. As the air grew thin, a desperate, last-ditch lie formed on my lips. "Okay," I gasped, the words tearing from my raw throat. "Okay, you're right. I cheated. I'm sorry. Forgive me, please. Give me a chance." Thump. Before I could finish, a heavy weight slammed down on the lid of the suitcase. I could feel the vibrations as she stood on it, her voice dripping with venomous triumph. "I knew it. I knew you were cheating. It took you long enough to admit it." Her next words were my epitaph. "Go to hell, Ethan. A man who cheats doesn't deserve to live." And just like that, enveloped in helplessness and despair, I suffocated. My spirit clung to the room. Hours later, after she was certain I was dead, I watched her dial his number, a satisfied smile on her face. "Julian," she said brightly. "He admitted it before he died. I was right to trust you." There was no grief, no remorse. In that moment, I understood. She hadn't loved me for a very long time. My explanations, the truth, none of it mattered. The only thing that mattered was what Julian said. I watched, powerless, as they weighted my body and sank it in the river. I had no close family, few friends to raise an alarm. My disappearance went unnoticed. My unclaimed body was eventually disposed of in a potter's field, where the wild dogs found me. And Chloe and Julian? They took my insurance money and lived happily ever after, even toasting to my memory. Even in death, the cheating bastard made himself useful, I heard Chloe say one night, laughing. I consider it compensation for my pain. My rage burned away my consciousness. And then, I was back here. "Get in, Ethan," Chloe urged again, her eyes gleaming with a strange, feverish light. This time I smiled. With a sudden, forceful twist, I broke free of the loose ropes she had started to wrap around me. "It's our anniversary," I said, my voice smooth and calm as I tossed the rope to the floor. "And I know how much you love your little games. So why don't you get in?" The color drained from Chloe's face. "But you promised," she pouted, her expression hardening. "You said on our anniversary, we'd do whatever I want." I slowly unwound the remaining rope from my body, letting it fall into a pile. I looked around the room, the solid furniture, the light filtering through the window, and a profound sense of reality washed over me. "It's just one anniversary, my love. There will be other chances to play." I paused, then added casually, "Besides, I heard Julian is on a blind date tonight. Shouldn't you go check on that?" The effect was instantaneous. Panic flashed across her features. She fumbled for her phone, her fingers flying as she dialed his number. He picked up quickly, his voice low and impatient. "What is it? Where are you, Julian?" Chloe demanded. He sounded annoyed. "Why does it matter?" he shot back. "Look, I'm about to eat. I'll call you later." And he hung up, leaving her staring at her phone in stunned silence. Her face slowly turned a ghastly shade of purple. I watched her, a bitter laugh rising in my throat. How had I ever been so blind as to believe they were just friends? After Julian had returned from abroad, he'd sworn to Chloe that he would remain single forever, that he would always be her rock. She had been moved to tears. I had found it strange, unsettling even, but when I voiced my concerns, she had accused me of being controlling and jealous. "What are you imagining? Julian and I are just friends. As long as you don't betray me, nothing will ever happen between us. Are you trying to forbid me from having friends now?" Trapped by guilt and emotional pressure, I had let it go. But I wasn't lying. Julian was, at this very moment, on a date. In my previous life, when she called him after my murder, I saw a ghostly image from his end of the line. He was just getting out of bed with another woman, hastily pulling on clothes while feigning concern for Chloe. He was no lovesick puppy. He had come back to the country because he was bored of the women overseas and wanted a taste of something new. No matter how many times I had tried to tell her this, in her eyes, I was just jealous. She refused to believe me. This time, I would let her see the truth with her own eyes. "What's wrong?" I asked, my voice laced with false sympathy. "I think he's at the M Lounge. Do you want me to give you a ride?" Her head snapped up, her eyes narrowed with suspicion. "How do you know that?" I pulled out my phone, logged into a burner social media account, and showed her a picture Julian had just posted. "I was worried about you and him," I said, feigning hurt. "So I added him with a different account. He posted this tonight." Chloe snatched the phone from my hand. The blood drained from her face, leaving it a stark, white mask. On the screen, Julian had his face buried in the chest of another woman, a look of pure bliss on his face. "He promised me," she whispered, her voice trembling with rage. "He promised he'd be single forever. He lied to me." By the time we reached the karaoke bar, Chloe had called Julian a dozen more times, only stopping when his phone was finally switched off. I glanced at her darkened expression in the rearview mirror. "I'm only doing this because he lied to me," she said suddenly, as if trying to convince herself. "It's not because I'm jealous." I nodded, my gaze fixed on the road ahead. "I know," I said flatly. Of course I knew she was lying, but I had no desire to play these games with her anymore, no interest in discussing our love. The woman who had murdered me with her own hands was no longer someone I could feel anything for but contempt. All I wanted was for both of them to experience the agony I had endured. A debt of blood had to be paid in kind. Chloe jumped out of the car. "Wait here," she ordered, before storming into the building. I gave it a minute, then followed her inside. At the front desk, I asked for Julian's private room and headed down the corridor. The air vibrated with muffled bass and terrible singing. As I neared the room at the end of the hall, I heard shouting over the music. Through the small glass window on the door, I saw two women locked in a furious struggle. Chloe had a fistful of the other woman's hair, her eyes blazing red. "Who gave you permission to seduce Julian?" she screamed. "Don't you know he's mine? You shameless slut." The other girl, trembling with a mixture of fear and fury, shrieked back, "I'm his girlfriend." It was a perfect catfight, and the man at the center of it, Julian, was simply sitting back on the sofa, a smug smile on his face, enjoying the show. Chloe sneered, turning to him. "Julian, is this your girlfriend?" Her voice was laced with triumphant certainty, convinced the other woman was lying. To her shock, Julian nodded casually. "She is." Chloe's hand fell away from the woman's hair. She stumbled toward him, her voice a fragile whisper. You said you would always be with me." You said you would stay single. Her voice cracked. You lied to me? Julian sighed, a look of profound disappointment on his face. Chloe, I did say that. But you can't expect me to be alone forever. You have a husband, a home. What about me? I'm all alone. You won't even divorce him for me. Are you really so cruel that you'd watch me be single for the rest of my life? It was textbook manipulation, and it worked. Chloe's resolve crumbled. You know I don't love him anymore. She choked out, her eyes welling with tears. If it weren't for his money, I would have left him ages ago. I'm doing all of this for you, Julian. He scoffed. Is that so? But the thought of you with Ethan, it disgusts me. Is it so wrong for me to find comfort with another woman? No, Chloe shrieked, cutting him off. She frantically pulled out her phone and dialed my number, her eyes wild. I'm divorcing him right now, she muttered, as if in a trance. Julian, don't leave me. You're the only one who's ever been good to me. You've always been there for me. Her words sent a jolt through me, a dizzying echo of the past. This was how she always talked about him. She'd claimed I was never there. For her, too busy with work, while Julian always understood her needs. The expensive gifts I bought her meant nothing compared to a wildflower he picked by the side of the road, because that, she claimed, showed he cared, while I just threw money at her. She never seemed to grasp that without my money, the cheap gifts and emotional validation he offered were worthless in the face of real life. Or perhaps she simply didn't want to. My pocket buzzed. I pushed the door open. The noisy room fell silent. All eyes turned to me. I smiled calmly. You were looking for me? A flicker of panic crossed Chloe's face, but she quickly masked it with a cold glare. Ethan, I want a divorce. Why? I asked, my voice carefully pitched to sound heartbroken. She hesitated, then sighed dramatically. You don't love me enough. You give me money, but you don't give me your time or your affection. I'm sick of it. Besides, she added, her voice rising, Julian told me he saw you with that college girl, taking her to a hotel. I can't forget that. Let's just end this. She took a deep breath. If you feel guilty, I'll take 70% of the assets. Julian's eyes lit up with approval. I knew the idea was his. I shook my head, my eyes filled with a carefully constructed sadness. Chloe, I told you, that was a misunderstanding. Why won't you believe me? I've never questioned you about Julian, and this is how you treat me. She waved a hand dismissively and called a waiter over to escort me out. I don't want to hear it. This divorce is final. 70%, or I'll see you in court. She was so sure of my love for her, so certain I would give in. Finally, I let my shoulders slump in defeat. Fine, I said, my voice heavy. You can have whatever you want. All I ever wanted was for you to be happy. I played the part of the devoted, heartbroken man to perfection. Back in the car, I had to grip the steering wheel to keep from being sick. It's all right, Chloe. You can have your 70%. For now, but soon, you'll pay it all back. With interest. Chloe packed her bags and left that night. Before she walked out the door, she saw me sitting alone on the sofa, a picture of misery. A smirk touched her lips. Don't be too sad, Ethan. We were together for 7 years. We can still be friends. She paused at the door. I could have taken you for everything. Because of your cheating, you know. But I'm leaving you something, for old time's sake. The divorce papers are on the table. I've already signed them. She left without a backward glance. The moment the door clicked shut, a smile spread across my face, wide and unrestrained. Everything was proceeding more smoothly than I could have ever hoped. Chloe was desperate to lock Julian down, especially now that she knew he was seeing other women. As for me, she thought she knew me inside and out. She was certain my love for her meant she could always come back for more money, divorced or not. Her calculations were sound, based on the man I used to be. But that man was dead. From the moment I was reborn, my love for her had vanished, replaced by a cold, hard resolve. My heartbroken act was just that, an act designed to make her sign the papers without a fight. Once my signature was on that document, she would never see another penny from me. All I had to do now was sit back and watch them tear each other apart. Soon, Chloe's social media became a shrine to her and Julian. I saw their posts every day, but never reacted. She started sending me suggestive messages, hinting that if I had only been a better partner, it would be me in those pictures with her. She was trying to make me feel guilty, hoping I would offer financial compensation for my past failings, dangling the possibility of reconciliation if I just tried hard enough. The old Ethan would have fallen for it. The new me simply marked them as read and moved on. After 2 weeks, she couldn't stand it anymore. She called me late one night, sighing dramatically into the phone but never getting to the point. Isn't Julian with you? I finally asked, my voice bored. Why are you calling me? There was a stunned silence. Shouldn't you be happy that I called? She asked, bewildered. Why would I be happy? We're divorced, Chloe. Stop bothering me. My voice was dripping with sarcasm. The time for pretending was over. She shrieked into the phone. I knew it. You're just like all the other men. You act all heartbroken during the divorce, and 2 weeks later, you've completely forgotten me? This is all your fault we broke up. You should be on your knees begging for my forgiveness. I rolled my eyes. Chloe, I said coolly. You're only calling me because you found out Julian is cheating on you again, aren't you? The line went quiet for a moment. What are you talking about? She stammered. Julian is on a business trip. What cheating? I let out a soft chuckle. Oh, I said, my voice full of fake regret. You didn't know? My mistake. Forget I said anything. I hung up and ignored the barrage of calls that followed. Leaning back in my chair, I watched the city lights twinkle outside my window, a feeling of deep satisfaction washing over me. In my past life, Julian had used this exact tactic to convince her I was unfaithful. Now, it was his turn to feel the burn of Chloe's all-consuming, paranoid jealousy. The next morning, my phone rang. It was Julian, his voice trembling with rage. Are you insane, Ethan? What lies are you spreading about me? You think this little game will work on me? Think again. Oh, I said calmly. I don't know if it will work or not, but the pictures of you and your little friend are already on their way to Chloe. You might want to go home and start thinking of an explanation. What? I hung up on his furious roar. A moment later, I received a text from an unknown number. The anonymous package has been delivered to Chloe's address. I replied with a simple good and put my phone down. Unlike my alleged affair, Julian's was very real, and there was plenty of proof. That night, Chloe called me, sobbing hysterically. Ethan, he really is cheating. Another woman sent me photos. She's mocking me. He's not home yet. What do I do? I let her cry, waiting for her to calm down before I spoke, my voice soft and soothing. Chloe, you're probably just misunderstanding. After all, he loves you so much. He was willing to be single his entire life just for you. I paused, letting the words sink in. I really hope you two can sit down and talk it out properly. I deliberately emphasized the last 3 words, a cruel smile playing on my lips. I knew Chloe's nature. She was incapable of talking it out. When it came to infidelity, she only had one solution, the same one she had used on me. Sure enough, I was awakened early the next morning by a call from the police. Hello, are you Ethan, Miss Chloe's ex-husband? The officer asked. We're investigating a case of aggravated assault. We need you to come down to the station. I hung up the phone, stunned. It had happened so fast. At the station, I saw both of them. Julian was sitting stiffly, a large bandage on his head, while Chloe had a bright red handprint blooming on her cheek. It seemed she had tried to reenact my murder, but Julian had fought back and called the police first. Facing the police, Chloe claimed that I had deliberately incited her to attack Julian. I saw her avoid my gaze, and I knew everything. Thankfully, I was prepared. I played the recording of our phone call from the night before. My words were nothing but calm and placating. The officer's face darkened as he turned to Chloe. Filing a false report is a serious offense. I was released without issue. Chloe was to be detained for 3 days, but Julian, unbelievably, signed her bail papers and got her out the same day. That evening, she showed up at my new apartment. A storm was raging outside, and when I opened the door, she was standing there, drenched and shivering, looking at me with wide, pitiful eyes. Ethan, listen to me, she began, her teeth chattering. Julian threatened me today. He made me say you were behind it. Otherwise, he would have let me go to jail. Can I please come in? It's so cold. She squeezed past me before I could answer. I watched her for a moment, then closed the door. She moved through my apartment with a familiar ease, finding one of my shirts to wear and making herself a mug of hot milk. She sat on the sofa, her hair loose around her shoulders, and looked at me with an expression of deep affection. Ethan, she said softly, you're the only one who's ever really been good to me. What happened last night? I asked, cutting straight to the point. She flinched, her eyes turning red. Julian came home drunk. When I asked him for an explanation, he said I was being controlling. We argued, and he hit me. She tilted her head to show me the faint bruise on her cheek. It hurt so much. You never hit me, Ethan. Her voice was a careful blend of flattery and vulnerability, but I wasn't buying it. And you're not afraid he'll hit you again when you go home? We broke up, she said quickly. I realize now that you're the one for me, Ethan. She moved to embrace me. I stood up, sidestepping her advance. I looked down at her, my expression unreadable. We're divorced, Chloe. You should go. Let's get back together, she begged, falling to her knees and grabbing my leg. Tears streamed down her face. I see it now. You were the one who was good to me, and I was too foolish to appreciate it. I regret everything. Give me another chance. Please. After 7 years together, can you really just throw it all away? The mention of our 7 years brought the memory of my own death rushing back. I felt a wave of nausea, but her sudden change of heart felt suspicious. You should go, I said, my voice firm but non-committal. Let me think about it. Seeing that I wasn't outright rejecting her, a flicker of hope lit up her eyes. She nodded, and before she left, she threw her arms around me, whispering a few more sweet nothings. The moment the door closed, I ran to the bathroom and retched into the toilet. My physical revulsion to her was something I couldn't control. Back in the living room, I saw the still steaming mug of milk on the table. I didn't believe a word she'd said. Her turnaround was too fast, too convenient. I called my assistant, the one person I trusted completely, the one person who had warned me about Chloe for years. Be careful, Ethan, he had told me countless times. She's manipulating you. But I, blinded by love, had always defended her. I thought he just didn't understand her. How wrong I was. The observer always sees more clearly than the one in the game. But fate had given me a second chance. The next morning, my assistant met me at the office with a troubled look on his face. Mr. Ethan, Chloe is here. She's in the reception area, causing a scene. She insists on seeing you. I nodded and walked into the reception room. She was on the phone, her tone intimate and flirtatious. The moment she saw me, she hung up and smiled brightly. Ethan, I brought you breakfast. I figured you'd be here early. I glanced at the spread of food on the table, clearly from a nearby cafe. I didn't call her out on the lie, but I didn't touch the food either. I told you I would think about it, I said coolly. What are you doing at my company? I want us to have a fresh start, she said, her expression earnest. And that means I need to change. I've been living off you for too long. I want to understand your work, to help you. She leaned forward eagerly. I want a job here. A job? Yes, she said, her eyes shining. I think I could be most useful in the finance department. My degree was in finance, you know. I can really help you. I almost laughed, as if my company, especially the rigorous finance department, had a place for her. I thought about the report my assistant had given me that morning. All right, I said, nodding slowly. If you're really serious about this, I'm willing to reconsider our relationship. I pushed a contract across the table. You'll need to sign this, just in case you decide to quit after a few days, like last time. She had tried this once before, quitting in a huff after less than a week and leaving a mountain of work for her colleagues. When I'd confronted her, she'd arrogantly declared, I'm the boss's wife. I can do whatever I want. This time, she didn't argue. Eager to seal the deal, she signed the contract without even reading it. So, I can start now? She asked, beaming. I nodded. Yes, you can start now. Chloe started in the finance department, and I had my assistant keep a close eye on her. For the first few days, she was diligent, poring over the company's books, even digging up old audited accounts from years past. She was looking for something, but my company was clean. There was no tax evasion, no financial misconduct to be found. She was clearly disappointed. But Chloe was smart, or perhaps she had someone smart advising her. She started creating her own fraudulent accounts. She would do all the dirty work and then try to get her colleagues to sign off on the final step, claiming she didn't care about performance metrics and just wanted to help me. Forewarned by my assistant, no one fell for it. Eventually, she had no choice but to sign the falsified documents herself. Her plan was simple. If the fraud was discovered, she could lay all the blame on me. It was a good plan, one that had Julian's fingerprints all over it. A month later, she asked me to remarry her again. I glanced at the email from my assistant, detailing the massive life insurance policy she had taken out on me during our first marriage. I shook my head. I've thought about it, Chloe, and the answer is no. 7 years is a long time, but if it's not right, it's not right. Maybe you and Julian really are the perfect match. We're over. Her face contorted in a brief flash of rage. Without a marriage certificate, she could only get the insurance payout, not my inheritance. She was greedy enough to want both. Seeing my resolve, she dropped the act. She slammed a folder down on my desk. Fine. I guess I was wrong about you. After all I've done for you this past month, this is the thanks I get? I see you for who you really are now, Ethan. She stormed out, but she was back that afternoon, her face a mask of pure fury. Where's my money? You promised me 70%. You got it, I said calmly. 70% of $100,000. What's the problem? Don't play dumb with me, Ethan, she screamed. I know you're worth millions. You can't possibly only have this much. I chuckled. You really think I'd hand over millions to the woman who tried to murder me? On the day I was reborn, I had moved all my assets to overseas accounts. Legally, on paper, I was worth next to nothing. Her face turned livid. Fine, she hissed, her eyes boring into me. Fine. You did this to yourself, Ethan. Don't blame me for what happens next. She slammed the door so hard the walls shook. I watched her go, a thoughtful expression on my face. The fake accounts she created were her leverage, her tool for blackmail. But I had no intention of letting her drag this out. It was time to end this, once and for all. That night, I was the lead story on the evening news. An internal whistleblower had accused me of corruption, tax evasion, and falsifying accounts. I was to be placed under investigation. The internet exploded with outrage. I faced the reporters calmly and promised my full cooperation. The investigation lasted 3 days, and the story dominated the headlines. The final verdict came. No illegal activity was found, but there were suspicions of fraudulent accounting that required further investigation. My company's stock plummeted. Panic partners started pulling out of deals. Mr. Ethan, my assistant said, worried. Shouldn't we do something? I shook my head. Not yet. As expected, Chloe called, her voice dripping with triumph. See, Ethan, this is the price you pay for what you did. Do you regret crossing me now? I laughed softly. Chloe, are you aware that Julian is using your money to support his other women? Shouldn't you be worried about your own house before you try to burn down mine? Don't change the subject, Ethan. I won't fall for your tricks again. Tricks? I scoffed. Did you really think I believed your act? That I fell for your little fresh start fantasy? I knew she was never sincere. I knew what had really happened that night. She came to my apartment. She had tried to kill Julian, but he had overpowered her and twisted the story, using me as a scapegoat. He had promised her that if I were dead or ruined, he would be faithful. He painted a picture of a life of luxury for them, living off my fortune. Did she really believe him? I don't know. But I know she was tempted by the fantasy, enough to try to destroy me. But her plan had one fatal flaw. She was dealing with a man who had already seen the ending. Do you really think he'll be with you if I'm gone? I pressed. Stop lying to yourself, Chloe. You've spent this past month working for your future together, and he's been spending your money on Hermes bags for other women. Why do you think you only just realized the money I gave you wasn't enough? Because he asked you for more, didn't he? Where did all his money go, Chloe? Has he ever bought you a single designer bag? I didn't let up. She said nothing. Finally, she hung up the phone. The next morning, Chloe was arrested for murder. She had stormed into a hotel room and bludgeoned Julian to death with a champagne bottle. The woman he was with had called the police in a panic. On the same day Chloe was arrested, the final results of my company's investigation were released. The accounts had indeed been falsified, but the fake accounts were, themselves, fake. Everything Chloe had done was a pointless exercise, a performance in a play I had directed. The so-called contract she signed was meaningless. She was never an official employee. For the murder of Julian, Chloe was sentenced to life in prison. The day she was incarcerated, she asked to see me. I went. In just a few short weeks, she had become gaunt and skeletal, her eyes hollow and dull. She opened her mouth to speak, but no sound came out. She just stared at me. After a long silence, she finally whispered, I had a dream. In the dream, I killed you. I smiled faintly. What a coincidence. I had the same dream. Except I don't think it was a dream. Her body went rigid, and she began to tremble violently. You mean it was real? I really did that to you. I shrugged. Who knows? Maybe in a past life. A look of dawning horror and regret washed over her face. In the past life, she mumbled, staring into space. Julian also told me to kill you, so we could have the money. We broke up the first time because we were poor. After I married you, I understood how important money was. When he came back, all the old feelings, the old what-ifs, they came back too. I dreamed of what our life could have been like if we'd had money. Her voice was thick with unshed tears. At first, I just wanted to use your money to support him. Then he told me you were cheating. I didn't believe him, not really. But it was the perfect excuse. I wanted to kill you. I wanted the money. I wanted to see if we could finally be happy together. Tears streamed down her face. And now you've seen it, haven't you? I asked quietly. A choked sob escaped her throat. I've seen it. It was never about the money. He was just a bad person. He never wanted to be with me. He only wanted me. When he was broke, he never loved me. She buried her face in her hands. That night, he was drunk. There were other women with him. I just snapped. I watched her, feeling not the triumph I had expected, but a sense of weary finality. My time was up. As I stood to leave, she called out to me. I had my reasons, she pleaded, her voice trembling. Can you forgive me for what I did? I paused at the door, considering her for a long moment. You could try asking the me in your dreams if he forgives you, I said softly. The color drained from her face. I walked away without looking back. Stepping out of the prison and into the fresh air, I finally felt real. I had survived a toxic love and had seen justice served. This life was a second chance, and I was determined to live it well, to make up for all the years I had lost.